Oh, hello Algebra 2 students. Mr. Thomas here. I was just enjoying some light reading, some Les Mis by Victor Hugo. It's actually kind of a miserable read. That's a joke. Les Mis in French means the miserable ones, all right? Actually, this book, it's super long, okay? It will take you days and days, maybe even months or years to finish. However, it is a wonderful book, okay? A wonderful story of redemption. The main character, his name is Jean Valjean. All right, he was a criminal. He was in prison. He was set free from prison by a kind priest. And there the redemption began. He became kind and wonderful and generous. And the whole story kind of tells the tales of different people that have miserable lives. But Jean Valjean finds a redemption. It's a wonderful story. If you don't read it, check it out on Netflix, okay? Les Mis, all right? Les Miserables, okay? Fantastic movie. Take 2.5 hours and watch it. But enough of that. Now the real misery starts. Just joking. It's another Ms. pun, okay? We are going to learn about polynomials, linear factors, and zeros. So, our objective today, solve and graph systems of linear and quadratic equations. To solve and graph systems of quadratic inequalities. So let's take a look at what these are. So remember, poly means many, okay? So writing a polynomial in factored form. So we've done binomials, all right? And we've done polynomials where we have like a little squared. So what do we do when we have a cubed that starts off? How do we do that? Well, some easy steps actually. First step, factor out the x. So if I take out an x from here, here, and here, I'm going to be left with x, and then parentheses, x squared minus 2x minus 15. That is much more manageable. Then from there, we factor like we've learned. I'm going to draw my little parentheses, split the x's, x and x. I've got my minus here, so I drop the first one automatically. The second symbol, if the first one's a minus, you flip the second one, so this becomes positive. And then I'm looking for multiples that add or subtract to be -2. 3 and 5 meet that criteria. I put the largest number over here and the smaller number right there. And so I have x, parentheses x minus 5, parentheses x plus 3. This is the same thing as this. It's just in factored form. So how would I go about doing this example? First step, remove the x. So I'm going to rewrite this, having removed the x. So this becomes x squared. Negative x squared becomes negative x. And negative 12x becomes negative 12. And now I'm going to factor. So I'm going to drop that x. I'm going to draw my parentheses. These x's, they drop. I have a minus sign. The first symbol always drops. And since this one's a minus, the second one's going to flip. And that was pitiful right there. Okay, let's try that again. That's going to be a positive sign. That's supposed to be a positive sign. I'm positive that I'm terrible at using the smart board. Okay, so now I'm looking for multiples of 12 that add up to be, remember this is like a -1, that add up or subtract to be -1. So automatically, I know it's going to be 1 and 12. I put the largest number first. And so I have x, parentheses, x minus 12, parentheses, x plus 1. Or 3 and 4 work. All right? So, we do it this way. My bad. 12 minus 1 is 11. So, 4 and 3. I apologize for that. X minus 4, x plus 3. Hey, there we go. The green pen wasn't cooperating, but the black pen was. So, factor out the x, and then factor as we learned a couple weeks ago. All right. Now, what do we do about finding 0? So finding zeros just means where does the graph cross the x-axis. So the x-axis is the horizontal line. So where does this graph cross the x? Now there's a shortcut on these, all right? And I know I've taught my classes in class that the shortcut is if you see an x in parentheses or in absolute value brackets, you just drop the number and switch the sign. So my zeros are going to be x equals -2, +1, and +3. All right, now I can go and check over here. I've got an x at -2, +1, and +3 there. All right, now they're going to give you all sorts of like steps. Don't worry about those steps. I just want you to know this. Another tip I want to give you is they're going to have you like find all these other points. Don't worry about all that. I'm going to show you a quick way to graph, okay? So I have 3 little factored form things, okay? 1, 2, 3. That means it's going to be sort of like x cubed if I were to solve it out. And with our graphs, if you have an odd number, all right, so 1, 2, 3, odd number, then the graph, the endpoints are going to be opposite directions. So since this is positive over here at the front of the parentheses, I know it's going to end up. And the opposite of up is down. And so if I were to graph this, I would just find my little points, and then I would just draw a little squiggly thing that passes through all of them. You can be more exact on Math Excel. So let's look at this example. So it wants me to find the zeros and then graph it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll use red to find my zeros. So x, what number is in there with the parentheses with this x? Nothing. All right. The numerical value of nothing is 0. So I can say x equals 0. I drop the number, switch the sign for -3, that's 3. Drop the number, switch the sign for 5, that's -5. So those are my x's. So now I'm going to make my graph, and I'm going to put a point at 0, a point at 3, and a point at -5. Then I do my little trick. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3. That's an odd number. Odd means it's going to be opposite. And then this is positive up here. So I'm going to end by going up. And so now, that means I'm going to start by going down. So I'm just going to, oh, that's a bad one. I apologize. My drawing skills are not what you would call top. Oh, my smartboard skills, put that on the blooper reel. There we go, something like that. All right, it's going to pass through. That kind of looks like a rocket now. Now it's going to look crazy. But that's essentially how you would do it. Now, if you are like me and you are terrible at drawing pictures or drawing graphs, there's a beautiful help called Desmos. So this is our same equation. And if you click on each of these, it will show you your zeros, and it's going to show you what the graph looks like. So if you draw your graph and you're all over the place like I was, you can just check this to make sure you graphed it correctly. I do not mind. In fact, I encourage you to use what helps. Okay, so how about writing polynomials? So that we got it from polynomial form to factored form. We take it from factored form to find the x's. So now how do we put an equation with the zeros, put it back into polynomial form? Kind of just work in opposite directions. So these are our zeros. So to write it in factored form, I'm going to drop the number, switch the sign, and put it back in parentheses. X plus 2, x minus 2, x minus 3. Then I'm just going to do distributive property. All right? And so on this one, they kind of make it a little more complex than what I would do, but there's multiple ways to distribute on this. but they work with this set right here. And when they factor out these, or when they distribute out these, you get x squared minus 5x plus 6. Then, instead of just like, if it were me, I would just say, okay, x times x squared, x times negative 5x, x times 6, and then I would do 2 times x squared, 2 times negative 5. All right, I would do it that way. They kind of just write it all out. That's fine to do whatever works best for you. But they end up getting all this right here. Then they just simplify by combining like terms. So there's nothing that matches up with x cubed, but you have negative 5x squared and positive 2x squared. Those combine to become negative 3x squared. 6x minus 10x becomes 4x, negative 4x, and then the 12 is all by itself, and that just drops. And so the polynomial form of these zeros would be x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12. Right? You're just taking these zeros, putting them in factored form, distributing, and simplifying. You got to stay organized. Do not have writing all over your page. Just kind of go bottom towards the bottom from the top and be organized. Some of you really need to improve your organization skills. So, on this example, we have quite a few that we're going to deal with. So, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put x plus 2, and I actually have 2 of them, but I can still do x plus 2, x minus 2, x minus 3. That's the factored form of these equations. Now, you can do these separately if you want. You can distribute these as a set, and then you can distribute these as a set, whatever you would like to do. That's how I prefer. And so I'm going to start with this red one. So it would be x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 becomes negative 3x. Negative 2 times x. Oh, that kind of looks like a smiley face. All right. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and then negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. I'm just going to leave that there for now. All right, I will simplify here a little bit. Then, x times x is x squared. X times 2, 2x. 2 times x, 2x. 2 times 2, positive 4. Now, before I'm not going to combine terms here. I'm going to simplify. And I'm going to put this one in green. So the x squared stays the same. This becomes 4x. This becomes 4. All right. And I'm going to go and write my parentheses because I'm going to multiply by this red one that's about to become black. So x squared stays the same. Negative 3x minus 2x becomes negative 5x plus 6. And then from here, this is where it can get a little tricky, but you're going to distribute the x squared to all of these, all right? It's, like I said, it's going to require some organization. I'm not going to go through it because I'm going to run out of room, I can already tell. But once you get here, you just distribute and solve. I believe there's only one question on the homework that I don't even know if there is one that's this complex. But if there is, use the view an example as a help. The last thing we're going to talk about is multiple zeros, or multiplicity. And this just means a linear factor is repeated. So for instance, right here, you have x plus 2 and x plus 2. All right, there's 2 of them. So this would have multiplicity. So on this, on this one, you would just factor out to get, so it says, what are the multiplicities? How does the graph behave at these zeros? And it wants you to find the zeros. So to find the zeros, you're going to factor out so that you get an x squared, x, and a constant, or just a number. So if you remove the x squared from this, take it out, you're left with x squared, parentheses, x plus 2, and x minus 4. Now our repeats, or our multiplicities, is that x squared. Because x squared is sort of like x times x, which is the 0. All right. So you would just notice that that is a multiple or multiplicity of this polynomial. But you're graphing it the same way, finding the zeros the same way. Let's look at this final example. So the first step, I'm going to remove the x. So that's x squared minus 4x plus 4. Then I'm going to factor this out. So I'm going to split my x's up. I've got a minus. That drops. A plus sign becomes minus. And then finding my multiples that add up to be 4. That's going to be 2. So this is going to be x minus 2, x minus 2. That is my repeats. So you put that as your answer. I believe that is it. Yes. So there's only 6 questions. You should be able to work through it. I only gave you 6 because a couple of them take a while. But use Desmos.com to help you with any of the graphing or to check your graphs. Thank you for stopping by. Check out Les Mis on Netflix or read the book. Adios.